Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. This webinar topic is Celebrating Birthdays with Food Allergies presented by Yael Weinstein. This webinar is offered by Kids with Food Allergies Foundation as part of our educational webinar outreach program. I'm Linda Mitchell, President of Kids with Food Allergies, and I have the privilege of being your moderator again today. Today our presenter, Yael, and our medical advisory team, Dr. Meg Edison, will be discussing how you can make birthday special despite having allergen-restricted diets. This should be interesting and fun, and Yael is an excellent speaker, so I'm glad you joined us today. I want to give a special thanks to our presenters, by the way. The presenters for all of our webinars are doing so as volunteers and without compensation. I'm very grateful that both of them made time for us today to be here. Before we get started, I want to quickly run through, and I promise it'll be quickly, a few important housekeeping details about this webinar. First of all, we want to thank Abbott Nutrition, who has given us an unrestricted educational grant to have this webinar for us today. Abbott Nutrition are the makers of EleCare amino acid-based formula. We rely on donors and corporate partners like Abbott Nutrition for the financial support that makes our educational programming possible. This webinar is of general nature only and is not medical advice. Be sure to consult your own physician or healthcare provider for any medical advice you seek with regard to food allergies and other related medical conditions. And please, we don't imply that any food, ingredients, or other products we mention today are safe for your child or your family. You will still need to consult your doctor, and always remember to check labels and verify ingredients. We will be recording today's webinar, and we have another large audience here today, so we will be in listen-only mode. But as always, we want the webinar to be interactive, so we do put up some polls for you to take, and there is a questions pane that is part of the go-to webinar control panel that you see, and you can type in your questions or comments as we go along. We will be answering questions at the end of the session. In addition, we also will be giving away 3 copies of food allergy musician Kyle Dine's educational music CD, You Must Be Nuts. And so hang in there, and at the end we'll call a few names and you will be able to receive those free gifts from us. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce Yael Weinstein. Yael Weinstein, Master of Arts, is a mother of a child with food allergies and a Jewish educator for more than 10 years. She has developed educational curricula for both adults and children and currently teaches college courses in her hometown. In addition to her work in the Jewish community, Yael has been a speaker for Kids with Food Allergies Foundation on the topic of celebrating food allergies with children who have feeding tubes. She also has created various holiday booklets for us, and she's done a lot of other educational programming work that we've been very grateful for. So Yael, thanks so much for joining us here today. I would like to hand over the virtual microphone to you so you can go over the polls that are up right now that once everybody finishes you can talk about the results.
Thank you, Linda, for having me, and welcome everybody today. We're going to just wait just a few more seconds while everybody finishes taking the polling questions, and then we will begin shortly with celebrating birthdays. So the first question is, what is the age of the child with food allergies you care for? I see most of our audiences with toddlers who have toddlers from the ages 1 to 3 years old, although we also do have some older children and a few younger children. So we will be focusing on topics for all of our audience members. How long have you been managing children's food allergies? It looks like many of our families have been managing them for 3 or more years, so we've all been in the trenches for quite some time. How many food allergies do you manage? It looks like a few of us are managing 4 or more, quite a few of us are managing 4 or more allergens, and there are just a few individuals with no foods. We will be having a few comments on that, but in general we'll be sticking with families who are dealing with multiple food allergies. All right, and with that, let us begin. So celebrating food allergies, or celebrating birthdays with food allergies, is a really difficult aspect of our lives, and dealing with everything that we have to deal with. We want to make sure that our children can have those experiences that are fun and exciting for our children as much as they are for everybody else's, but it's a lot more difficult celebrating birthdays, whether that be birthdays for our own children or birthdays that our children participate in, than it is for other populations. And unfortunately, birthdays can be a time that are very isolating for our children, whether that be during their own birthday celebrations or when they go and visit other children for their birthdays, or even at school birthday parties. So today, what we're really going to be doing is trying to understand how we can make our children feel included, whether that be for their own party, which they should definitely feel included, but also when they're going to go to friends' parties and at school, because this time can be so alienating, and we want to make it fun and exciting for them rather than scary and depressing. So the first thing that I always say is all about the attitude. Attitude is absolutely everything, and how we act as parents really affects the attitude of our children. So if we can be positive, they're going to also be positive. So of course, the first thing about your attitude is try to be as positive as you possibly can. Try and make it exciting and interesting for them, and get really pumped up and worked up about all these amazing things you can do for the party, rather than be negative and focus on all the things that you can't do. There's so much our children have to go through that is negative, that we really want to be as positive as we can for those exciting and fun-filled activities. And if we're positive, they can be positive. And in light of that, we have to really refocus how we perceive things. You know, when I was growing up, my family had a lot of things that we would do that were food-focused for birthdays. And when I had my son, Yoey, we really had to refocus our entire idea of what a birthday was and really go back to the heart of the birthday, which is it's celebrating the life of the people that mean so much to us. So try and focus your attention on the birthday about the person that's celebrating it, rather than the food that can add to the birthday, but for our families are purposefully detracting from the birthday. And with that, use your imagination. The awesome thing about birthdays today is there are so many exciting and fun-filled activities that you can do for birthday parties. A lot of these are not necessarily in the home, but a lot are also in the home. So try and explore different ways that you can really bring in the exciting things for your children and be as creative and as imaginative as you possibly can. And you can explore these new ways through really going into the internet and typing in your search engine what you're looking for, whether it be a specific theme or a specific activity that your child wants to do, and really ask them what they want to do and experiment with the ideas that you have. The great thing about birthdays, they come up every year, right? So you can always find new and exciting things to try, and if one thing that you tried the year before doesn't work, hey, it's okay. Go ahead, throw it out, try something new. So if you tried a recipe this year and you found that it didn't taste great and kids didn't like it, you know what? Next year you get to try again and you can find a new recipe that's even more exciting and new techniques to make that exciting. And we'll talk about more ideas later. And be daring. You know, we have to, as food allergy parents, always try and work to find new and exciting things to do, and we have to be daring to do that. And it's sometimes difficult to really step outside of our comfort zones, but once we do, we can find that there's an exciting new world that we can really participate in and create new traditions. As I was saying earlier, my family would always go to restaurants because we didn't get to go to restaurants a lot when we were younger, so it was our tradition that every year on our birthdays, we got to choose what restaurant to go to. And obviously, that's not an option for my son because of his food allergies. And so what we ended up having to do is create new traditions for our families of what you do on birthdays. And lastly, and most importantly, I think, is have fun. This is a birthday. Birthdays are supposed to be exciting and fun. They're not supposed to be drab and boring. And fun doesn't mean food. Fun means being with the people you are, having great activities, and just really enjoying yourself. So with that, what do we have to do as parents to really help our children have fun is preparation. I always say to be successful, you have to be prepared. So prepare for success, as it were. And we want our children to have a spontaneous and fun time for their birthdays, but the reality is that we as parents need to go into any celebration with a lot of forethought because it does take a lot more creativity and energy to make an amazing celebration that doesn't focus on food and following back on previous traditions because we are dealing with all of these food allergies. So my recommendation to all of you is make a game plan. Really sit down with that list and go through, what do I need to do to make this an exciting, fun birthday for my child? And in terms of when your child is going to somebody else's party, you also have to make a game plan, because the reality is you have to make sure that that is a successful event for your child as well. And what that means is we have to sometimes do a lot of research. It's not a lot of fun all the time, although sometimes you can get really into it and find exciting new ways. But do your research. Really find out what you need to know to make your child's birthday party safe for them, as well as making a safe birthday party experience for your child when they go and visit somebody else for their birthday party. And part of this is you have to set expectations. I know that as families with kids who have food allergies, there's a lot of disappointment and a lot of tears that are cried because they feel left out, and it's really hard emotionally to have food allergies. So part of our job as their parents is to help our children prepare for the birthday party emotionally. And it sounds almost silly to say that, because it's supposed to be fun and exciting time, and so many families are able to just take their kids and drop them off at the party, but we're really not able to do that. And we have to set up those expectations so that they know what's coming. And it's really important to talk to them about their concerns and their fears, because a lot of the time our children do have fears about going to somebody else's house, whether it be fears because they're going without their parents, or whether it be fears that they are going to be in a situation where they look different or seem different because they're not able to eat the food that everybody else is eating. Whatever it is, there are always fears and concerns. And then share with your children ways that they can overcome those fears and participate, even if it means that they cannot eat the same food that everybody else eats. So with that, let's look at what birthday celebrations are like at the home. So whenever we think of birthdays for our children. We think of birthday parties for their friends. But the reality is our children also participate in birthday parties at home that have nothing to do with their birthdays, but are the birthday parties of ourselves, our spouses, our other children, cousins. And so what happens is we have to think, how do we bring our children into those parties and make them feel included, even though it's not their special day? So for children who eat, create new and safe food traditions so that your child with food allergies can feel included. And you can find amazing recipes in KFA's Safe Eats database. You can also find amazing suggestions in other food recipe cookbooks like from Linda Koss. So really go out and find those recipes. The other thing you can do is, if you really want to have that particular food because it's your favorite food and it's your birthday, go ahead and do that, but maybe make another special meal for your child so that they feel like they're still part of it. For a few families out there who have children with formula only, maybe have activities at the table for them to participate in. Maybe let them smell the food that's there. So there's a few other options. If your child is smelling, of course, you have to be careful that it's safe for them to do that. And then for everybody, the truth is you can celebrate your birthday without having a meal be the focus, and then you can go out maybe with your spouse for a special day or a special dinner. But what I recommend is really having activities at the table, maybe during a game night, maybe actually going out for a special movie, going to an amusement park, and not really focusing on the meal at all. So there's a lot of really fun ways that you can do that. Now let's hop over to this topic of celebrating birthdays outside of the home. This is a huge thing. Our children, especially for our members who are starting to have older children, but even for the toddlers, are starting to be invited to birthday parties outside of the house. And I think for all of us as parents, that's always a scary thing, right? Because the question is, should I let my child go? Should I not let my child go? If they go, do I drop them off? Do I and then go away? This is probably for the older kids. Or do I stay with them? How do I handle this particular situation? My recommendation for you is, for the first few parties maybe that you let your child go to, maybe make sure that there are houses where you know the parents, so that it's a more comfortable environment for you, and you actually are more, you feel that your child's more safe. See if you can actually go and stay, even if it's in a different room, so that you're not necessarily dropping off your child. Now, if there's going to be a meal, what I would recommend is finding out whether the recipe that or the food they're going to be serving is safe or not. And if it's not safe, you can offer maybe recipes of a similar food that's safe if you know they're tasty. This is a lot easier if you know the particular people that you're going to the party, obviously. It's not as comfortable to say, hey, by the way, I have a recipe, when you don't know the family. If it's not a possibility to offer a safe recipe, find out again what the meal is going to bring and try and bring something similar so that your child can feel more included. And if you can't bring something similar, maybe try and at least have something that is your child's favorite food so that they at least feel special. The other opportunity in terms of food is to offer to make the cake. And this might seem really silly, but I have seen all the amazing cakes that people have created on KFA's birthday celebration forum, and I have to say there are extremely talented mothers and fathers out in our community. And this is a perfect opportunity to make a safe, yummy, beautiful looking cake that you can offer as almost a gift to the families who are celebrating the birthdays. If this isn't an option, I would recommend bringing a cupcake or other special treat, because some of our families who are dealing with significant food allergies and a lot of various food allergies aren't necessarily able to make a cupcake, but that doesn't mean that you can't bring a special treat for your child. Another recommendation that I have is come before or after the meal. So when Yael was younger, we were really concerned because he was contact reactive to both milk and eggs, and as you know, cakes are full of milk and egg. And so we weren't really comfortable having him stay for the cake portion of the party. So what we would do is we would come for the activity portion of the party, whether that be a play date. I remember one specific one was at the Children's Museum. And Yoey would go, and he would have a wonderful time, and then we would take him away before the cake was served. Now, for children who don't have contact allergies, and it's not hard to stay for when the cake is being served, you can also have your child and tell them and prepare them and say, you don't have to stay while everybody's eating cake at the table. You can go and play something else. So it would be really nice for you to sing the birthday song while everybody is singing the song, and then you can go and play away from everybody. And the truth is, even the kids who don't have food allergies aren't necessarily as interested in the cake once the song is sung, and they also might start playing with your child so they don't feel left out. Now, the last thing that I would recommend is to find out what's in the goodie bags. Everybody today is using goodie bags, whether it be for with a lot of food in it or not, depends on the family. But I would find out what they're going to place in there, because a lot of times the goodie bags do have little edible treats, and many times they're not safe, whether they're not safe for the child because they're in a facility with dairy or nuts or peanuts, or whether they're made in a facility that's not safe because it's a smaller size than the larger size ones that are safe. It's great to find out what's going to be in the goodie bags. If it's not going to be okay, ask the host of the party if you can in fact bring a special goodie bag for your child, or stuff that you can then place in the same container of goodie bags that everybody else has, so for your child it looks the same. I have to be honest that Yoav has gone to many birthday parties, and the vast majority of the families know what Yoav can and cannot have at this point, and are amazing and actually make special goodie bags just for him. So sometimes when you talk and you're open about what's going on, the other parents will make accommodations and you won't have to, which is a fantastic thing. Now, what we have to do before our children go to a party is once again prepare. So preparing your child is going to be extremely important, and you're going to want to talk to them about the party before they go. And I would recommend almost finding out what the schedule of the party is going to be from the host of the party, so that you can tell your child, okay, this is going to come here, and then the food is going to be at this point in time in the party, and then you guys are going to be able to play again. And that really prepares them for that time period that might be harder for them than other parts of the party. I would also teach them how to advocate for themselves. It is really important, especially for our older kids that are going to be dropped off of parties, that they know how to say, I don't know if that's safe for me, can I please read the label? Or say, you know what, I don't know if that's safe, I need to call my mom and dad to find out. Or even to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable trying something new here because I don't know what's in it, so I'm going to just stay and eat this other food. So it's really important that they are able to advocate for themselves what is safe for them, what's not safe for them, so that they're more comfortable in that environment, especially for the kids who are being dropped off. And once again, prepare them for those possible disappointments. It is so important for them to know that there are going to be times during the party that they might be sad, and that's okay, but then they should also focus on the times that make them happy. So what I would recommend is, if you do talk about the disappointments, also discuss those exciting, wonderful things that they're going to get to do during the party. So hey, you might not be able to eat the cake, but you're going to a bouncy party, and you're going to get to go down all these amazing slides and have a great time. Or you're not going to be able to eat everything in the goodie bag, but there's going to be a lot of things in the goodie bag that you're going to be able to get and to have and enjoy. So I would really try every time that you do discuss those disappointments, definitely discuss those positive components as well. And that goes back to the whole, it's all about the attitude. Now, when I was going through KFA's birthday forums, I noticed that there was a concern of a lot of parents, which is a sleepover. And I entitled this next slide, ACK, a sleepover, because it's really a concerning time when your kids are getting over and they want to go to a sleepover and their friends are starting to have sleepover parties. What do? Do you let your child go to a sleepover? Do you keep them at home and not let them participate? And this is really going to be an individual decision based off of all family, based off of your family, your child's situation, how old they are, how bad their allergies are, whether they're contact reactive, whether there's multiple food allergies, that it's very dangerous, whether there's airborne allergies. So there's obviously a lot that's going to go into that decision of whether you participate in the sleepover or not. That being said, if you do decide that your child is ready to go to a sleepover, I recommend maybe having the sleepover, trying a sleepover first at somebody's house that you do know. And I know, honestly, even if you're not a parent of a kid with food allergies, usually you're more comfortable with sleepovers at people that you know than with families that you don't know. So this is not necessarily abnormal just because with families with food allergies. And I would pick up that phone, call the host, and I would literally talk to them about what their plans are for the party, what foods they're going to serve, find out all the foods. That means dinner, that means snacks, that means breakfast. Find out as much as you possibly can regarding that and check the menu for all of it. And then what I would do is prepare a safe food bag that you can bring to the family so that your child does have a dinner, so that your child does have snacks, and you might want to include a lot of various snacks rather than just one, so that they feel like they have a lot of variety just like the other kids are having, and then also a breakfast. Now, if you're concerned about one particular meal over the other, it might be something also where you drop your child after dinner or pick them up before breakfast. Those are also opportunities that you have. But definitely prepare safe food for them because it's a night over and they're going to get hungry, even if you come after dinner and pick them up before breakfast. In addition to that, pack a medicine bag. This is so important. You do not want to be in a situation where your child ends up having an allergic reaction, whether that be anaphylaxis or even just hives, and your child doesn't have their emergency bag. So I would really recommend having that bag packed with whatever you need in your backpack, including your epinephrine, and bring that to the family. And as you can see from the picture on the screen, there is an amazing form on Kids with Food Allergies website that is the Food Allergy Babysitting and Drop-Off Form. I would recommend printing off this form and using it as a form for whoever is hosting the party and bring that with the medicine bag. Maybe even recommend that they put this on a counter or on the fridge somewhere prominent where they have the information. I would recommend for your child to understand how to read their own labels. Most of the children, obviously, who are going to sleepovers are going to be old enough where they can read labels for themselves. It's extremely important that you go back to that idea of them knowing how to advocate for themselves. In addition to that, there's a few other things that you might want to do, which is train the parents who are hosting the party for emergencies. Not everybody is comfortable learning how to do an auto-injector, but quite frankly, that might be the decision of whether you let your child go to somebody's house for a sleepover or not. I have to be honest, personally, I wouldn't be as comfortable with Yael going to a party where they didn't know how to use an EpiPen and I wasn't there. So you have to make that call on your own, but it's something that you probably want them prepared and to know your emergency plan. In addition, if your child is old enough, you probably want to practice with your child on how to do self-administration if age appropriate. And this is something that is a very valuable life skill anyways and might be something very useful in an environment where they're not with their parents. Make sure your child has access to your phone number. This is very important. I have to tell you, when Yoey was 5 years old and he started going to drop-off parties, We bought him one of those cheap phones that you can just pay as you go and throw away if you're done. And he has that phone, and every time that he goes to a party where we're not around, he takes that phone and he has access to the phone number. And that's really important for them to know that if they're ever uncomfortable, they have the right and they have the option to call you to come and get them. And that makes the child probably feel more secure. In addition, make sure the family hosting the party also has your number. And this is true whether it's a sleepover or whether it's just a drop-off party anyways. So let's go on to the next slide, which is looking at this idea of school celebrations. All of us who have children at school have to deal with those celebrations of all the parties. And all the parties usually have cupcakes, and I know at one of my son's school they even have pizza parties, and they quite frankly concern me all the time, not as much now, but when we were dealing with the contact allergies more, it was very concerning. So how do you deal with this? The way I would recommend is at the very beginning of the year, go and speak with your child's teacher and really come up with a plan of how to deal with with birthdays and allergies together, and develop that policy for those school celebrations, for those birthday parties. And I would recommend actually coming up with a list of safe foods for other parents. A lot of times when you get that pushback from other parents, it's because they don't know what they can bring that's going to be safe. Because if you remember when we all first got our diagnosis for our children, we didn't know what would be safe, so we came to kids with food allergies and really took time to learn what was going to be safe for our children, what wasn't. And those first few weeks or few months or even year were really scary. Well, these other parents aren't dealing with allergies, so they don't know what's safe, and they don't have to go through the crash course that we all did. So creating a list of really safe foods that are easy is the operative word, is a really great idea. And then request that the teacher contact you before each party so that you get that heads up, hey, we're having a party. And you can also ask if you can contact parents before different birthday party celebrations. Some schools are going to be comfortable with this, some schools aren't. But sometimes talking to the other parents really alleviates their concern that they feel like, wait, my kid can't have this because some other kid, why is that possible? But when you put a voice and a name and a face together, it's a lot harder to be against that person, and they're more likely to cooperate and be willing to make accommodations. And now during the day of the celebration, it's great to double check if the food is safe. So if you're able to go in and attend the party, or if not able to attend the party, just go in and check the labels, or have the teacher call you so they can read off the label. That's a really great idea. Another option is to always bring in a safe treat for the days that there is going to be a party. I know that there are actually parents who have cupcakes and stuff in fridges at the school, so there's always something available. And for a few families out there that are dealing with kids who can't eat at all, you can always bring in a little treat or a little present so that they can have something for themselves. Now let's get to the heart of why we're possibly all here, which is how do you celebrate your own child's birthday party and make it a special and fun and joyous and exciting occasion? And what I would recommend, first of all, is to really change your mindset and recognize that there are things we want to do, and then there are things that your child actually wants to do. And recognize this is your child's day. This isn't anybody else's day. This isn't your relatives that are having an issue with the fact that there's not going to be certain food day. This isn't your child's friend's day, and this isn't our day. This is their day. And you can make their day fun and exciting even without doing all the things that you got to do when you were a kid. They don't know what you got to do as a kid. They just know what you're doing for them now. So really focus on this. So my feeling is if this is your child's day, make all food safe for your child. So if they want something in particular and you know that you can't buy it, take the time and make it. So if they want to have a pizza party but they can't eat the cheese, maybe it's time to make homemade pizza for them. So yeah, it's a lot harder, but if that's what they want, make it safe for them. And realize that you don't need to get other food that's not exactly for them as it is. Now for the children who cannot eat, snow cones, sugar cubes, water are a great option. And this is also options for children who can eat but have extensive allergy lists. So there's a lot of other options. And then in terms of goodie bags are so exciting for children. So if you can't have a full meal because of your child's allergen list, or if you can't have a meal that might be as interesting to other kids as it is to your own child, you can make really exciting goodie bags that have a lot of special treats in them that aren't necessarily food related, and the kids will get really excited about, and you don't have to realize that they're not eating what they like, for example. Now, I would also recommend taking the focus off the food entirely. Try and have the party at a time where there's not an expectation that a meal will be served. A 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock party is a perfect time because it's right after lunch and before dinner. So you don't have to worry about the fact that you can't make a meal that's large enough for everybody else because it's just going to take too much time and effort because it's not as easy as calling up, you know, Pizza Hut or whatever pizza company and saying, hey, I need this order. Now, the other recommendation I have is have a theme party. I can tell you with Yael, every party is about a theme, whether that be bouncy castles, art parties, Lego parties, going to ice skating, whatever that may be. There are so many party options, whether they be at the house or outside the house, that you can really do and get excited about and have a lot of fun enjoying, even though it's not food related. And for the families that have a harder time going out of the house for whatever reasons, whether that be because of the allergies themselves or because financially it's difficult, you really can do a lot of fun theme parties at home by going online and searching for whatever your child's, for example, favorite characters are. And there's a lot of different ways to make those activities fun and exciting, even if you don't have the finances to do something big. There's a lot of things that you can still do. And then the last idea is to create beautiful cakes. Cakes are really the cornerstone, if you will, of a birthday party in a lot of people's mind. And when you have a child with food allergies, you really have to refocus. What is the idea of the cake? In my mind, the idea of the cake is to bring something special and put it in front of your child with a candle and sing them this birthday and make them feel like they are the center of the universe and that they are the focal point of attention. And the great thing is that means a cake doesn't have to be a cake in terms of what you think a cake is, which is just something that's put in a pan with batter and it raises up and is gushy and yummy. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something entirely different. So from there, let's look at the different things that we can make into a cake so that your children can still have that wonderful experience. So if your child can eat and there's enough variety in your diet that you can make a safe cake, my recommendation to you is to go out and learn how to decorate cakes. There are amazing classes. A lot of the time they're built-in classes in your local arts and crafts store. I know in my house, in my neighborhood, I can take them at Michael's, I can take them at Joann's, so there's a lot of different places I can do them. So go out and learn how to decorate those cakes. If you can't afford that or you don't have a place close to your house where you can learn how to, I would recommend going to a library and finding books that actually teach how to bake cakes. If you're really able to learn that way, it's a perfect way to learn. The other option is sometimes on cable channels and everything, they do have cake decorating lessons and stuff, so that's also another way to learn so that you can actually visualize it in 3D more than just looking at it in a book. The other great thing is there are cake pans that you can buy. I know at Joann's and at Michael's we have them where they come in shapes of characters, and then they have a paper on them of how to decorate the cake so that you can just go out, for example, and buy that Cars pan and then just follow the decorations that are recommended, and they actually even tell you what color frosting you need and where to get the frosting. And then also explore the KFA Celebrating Birthdays Forum. It's a great resource for our families to really look and find out. And I know next week we're starting Cake Week for KFA, and there's going to be a lot of great and wonderful ideas that you can find and how-to guides of decorating cakes. Now, finding the recipe, that's always important for all of us, right? Because we want things to taste good. We don't want them just to look good. So I would recommend looking at KFA's Safe Eats recipe database. One of the greatest recipes that we have is Kathy P's tea cake, which you see right here on our screen. This particular recipe is milk-free, egg-free, but there is also an option of gluten-free. If you go on to KFA's Safe Eats database, you can go and look at the gluten-free recipe option. And I know this is the KFA famous recipe, so it's a great one to use, and I would really recommend it. Now let's look at the different cakes we have. If you go on to the birthday cake or the birthday celebration forums, there's actually a cake, show us your cake thread. And this is where all these pictures are from. And you can see these kids are excited. They have all different cakes. And look how amazing these cakes look. So you can really, the sky's the limit. You can make all different, wonderful, beautiful cakes. And be as creative as you possibly can. And if you'll notice on the screen, one of the cakes doesn't look as traditional as the others. The truth is, your cake doesn't have to be the typical flour and milk and egg cake. And if you can't bake a batter, you can still make something that looks like a cake that is exciting, because what's more exciting is for your child to have something put in front of them that they can get excited about than whether it's a traditional cake or not. Now, for our families who have a lot of allergens or who are restricted to just sugar, you can also make sugar cakes, and you can see here 2 examples of sugar cakes. One is a cotton candy cake. My husband always says that it's very flammable, so just be careful with putting candles in it. And the other one is actually a birthday cake for my son when he was 4 years old, and literally all of those frames, pieces, are hunks of sugar from the recipe in our recipe database, which is the lollipop recipe by Meg F. And it uses golden mile syrup. So as you can see, there's a lot of fun and exciting ways to make cakes that have nothing to do with the traditional view of what a cake is. And for our families out there who are dealing with no foods, you can also make cakes that have no food in them at all. And here are just 3 examples. One is a flour cake. One is a box cake where in each box were exciting little things for each round. And then one of them was a piñata. So there's really a lot of options that you have. And it's very exciting, everything that you can do, as long as you're imaginative and creative and you know the right resources. And KFA is such a great resource for this. There are so many things you can do. So in summing up, what I would recommend is think outside the box. Be willing to explore those new ideas. Create new traditions for your family, for your child, and above all, have a great attitude, because attitude is everything when you're celebrating birthdays with children who have food allergies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yael. That was really interesting, and as always, you do a lovely job with these presentations. I want to say, you ended saying, have a great attitude, but I think also a sense of humor goes a long way. I know if I could share pictures of what my son's cakes looked like when he was little, everybody would be sitting here laughing. They were, by the time I would make them once a year, the baking powder would be out of date and they'd be about 1 inch high, and the icing would look really bad, and the writing on it said "Happy Birthday, Matt" would be in my scribbly handwriting, looking really unattractive. But we stuck a candle in it and we sang "Happy Birthday," and he loved it. It didn't make that much difference to him, and I guess that's my point, is that it's great to make beautiful cakes, but your child may not even care, because mine certainly didn't. He would just wanted to celebrate his birthday, and he was happy just doing that. And we laughed about it. I still laugh at these pictures of the cakes years later. So anyhow, I just want to add some comments to what your presentation is, and then I'm going to hand over the mic, so to speak, to Dr. Meg Edison so she can add her comments. Regarding cupcakes for parties that you're taking, there's a little plastic container called Cup a Cake, and those are great for carrying so that the icing doesn't get smashed and the cake still stays, the little cupcake stays intact. I know that you talked a lot about having safe foods at school parties and things like that, and of course the ideal is to encourage everybody to have a no foods party, but that sometimes isn't realistic given the school situation. So that would be the preference, but of course if you've offered safe ways to do it as an alternative, if food is going to be there, you might as well make it safe for your child. And then somebody offered the suggestion that you can sometimes find cake decorating lessons on YouTube, so I thought I'd share that with everybody. So with that, I'm going to say thank you again. You did a beautiful job, and just making those days special for our children are so fun. My son just celebrated his 23rd birthday last week, and he didn't even want a cake. He said, "Mom, I want icing on brownies." And I thought, okay, that's what you want, that's what you'll get. And so I whipped that up and drove it up to college and dropped it off for him. So, you know, everything is different. Your child, you kind of have to go with what they want sometimes. It might not be your ideal, but it worked for him and it worked for me. So anyhow, so thank you so much. What I'll do first is I'll give away 3 copies of Kyle Dine's CDs, and those are going to go to Mindy Roberts, Sabrina Lule, and Haley Phillips. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch with you to get your to confirm your addresses and get those copies off to you probably next week. Also, before I hand the mic over to Dr. Meg, we are going to have Cake Week, which is going to be on our blog on kidswithfoodallergies.org next week. We are going to be having some allergy-friendly baking experts sharing their secrets of baking and making cakes and other kinds of party treats on our blog. All kinds of different pictures, step-by-step instructions. Linda Koss, cookbook author, Kathy Priziwara, who is famous for her Kathy P's Wacky Cake that so many people rely on, Laura Giletti, another one of our amazing baking moms, and even more folks who have contributed. So we'll be having that featured on our blog, and we'll be posting that on our forums, on our blog, of course, and then we'll be announcing it on Facebook as well and Twitter. So just keep an eye out for that. That will start on Monday. So next I'd like to introduce Dr. Meg Edison, who's a parent of a child of 3 children with food allergies, and she also is a pediatrician, and she lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and practices there as in a pediatric medical practice. She is going to be here to make comments on Yael's presentation, give her own suggestions, and she has some really good insight on this topic because she also, in her free time, runs the blog and website speedbumpkitchen.com, and if you haven't tried looking at Meg's blog and website, you should. She has a lot of really fun recipes on there and just shares her experiences and her adventures on making all these allergy-friendly treats for her children. So with that, I'd like to hand over the mic to Dr. Edison. Thank you for joining us.
Hi there. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, awesome. That was a fantastic presentation that you gave, Yael. I think the only things I wanted to add, from my perspective, you know, I'm a mom of, I've got 3 kids. My oldest and youngest have allergies to dairy, egg, and nut. And so I've been doing this for 10 years now, and attitude really is so important. In our house, we love parties. We love any party we can get involved in. We just love doing it. I love doing the cooking portion for it too. And today, I mean, now that I've been doing this 10 years, the resources that are available now are so much better than they were 10 years ago. I remember my first cookbooks 10 years ago because there wasn't really anything on the web. I mean, they were from Britain. I mean, I had to do all of these adjustments for the measurements and everything, and the recipes almost never turned out. And now, I mean, you can go on Pinterest and find some beautiful ideas for cakes. You can then Google some vegan recipes and find some options too. So the resources there are just so much better than they used to be. For me, birthdays, those have always been a time for me to step up, and they have not always been successes. I think with my son, his first birthday cake, which I can totally relate to Linda, just making something your kid will enjoy and be happy. We didn't know what to feed him, so we literally got a pile of rice with some sugar on top, and I colored the sugar red, and he thought it was the most wonderful thing ever. And it looked ridiculous, kind of in retrospect. He's covered in rice, but he was the happiest kid ever, and that was what it was, just a pile of rice. But it was a celebratory pile of rice, so that's what it was. You know, it was perfect for him. But you know, as far as birthdays, for us, it's always been a time to step up and try something new. And so, if it wouldn't have been for birthdays, you know, the cakes that we've tried, I never would have just tried them. So, you know, learning how to make fondant is probably one of our favorite things to do. And making fondant, I mean, it's basically marshmallows, shortening, and you know, some sugar. So it's really actually quite easy to make if you are so inclined. And a birthday is a great time to step up and do it. And my cake supplies, are insane. I have so many cake supplies, so much for making sugar anything, and it's a really fun time to gather up your coupons for Joann's and go out and buy a new pan or a new tip to go on your frosting stuff. It's a good fun time to do that. The other thing I was going to say about school for us, I'm busy working, and I'm fairly confident I would miss a birthday. So if there's 28 kids in a class, I'm never going to be able to keep up with them. So I've just been able to talk to our school and keep a freezer container of cupcakes that my daughter knows they're there, and so when it's time for her birthday, she just runs down to the freezer and grabs a cupcake out and comes back and eats it in her class. And she knows that that's the way it works, and she's totally fine with that. And for me, that's a lot easier than trying to keep up with all the different birthdays that might be going on in the school. For parties, when there's like a holiday party or something like that, that takes a little bit more organizing on my part, and oftentimes, since I enjoy the cooking portion of it, I just ask if I can bring all the food, and my daughter loves that because everybody's eating the same thing that she's eating at that time. And I think that was about all I had to add on there. As far as the disasters go, I can't even tell you how many disasters I've made. You try something that just doesn't work out, and we have a joke in our house. We have this stuff we call Dave Ramsey ice cream. And Dave Ramsey is kind of a financial guy who wants you to save money and everything. And so when you spend all this time and money making a cake or a brownie and it totally flops, it's kind of depressing to throw it away. So we don't really throw anything away in our house. We'll take the flat brownies or the sludge that never really did anything, and we'll put it in the freezer, and we'll chop it up, and I'll put it into the homemade ice cream. And so they have Dave Ramsey ice cream, and it usually tastes a whole lot better when you throw it in with some of the homemade ice cream and a little chocolate sauce. So don't be afraid of the disasters. You can always find some way to make some lemonade out of the lemons.
Thank you, Meg. I'm trying not to laugh. Dave Ramsey wrote this book called Financial Peace that I read. So you're trying to save money. That's really funny. Okay. Thank you so much. So now what we'll do is go on to our question and answer session. And before, we kind of missed the front slide where we were acknowledging EllaCare as our sponsor. So I just want to once again thank EllaCare for making this webinar possible today. Also, we've had a few questions, as usual, asking for, if the archive version of this are going to be available. Yes, we archive all of these, and you can find them just by going to kidswithfoodallergies.org, and then you'll see a menu bar, and one of the menu options is webinars, and if you just go there, the most recent one you will see immediately, but there'll also be a list of archived ones as well. So, so I encourage you to catch up on ones that maybe you missed in past months. We've got a lot of really rich content there, ranging from school preparations, basics of food allergies, all kinds of different things. Incidentally, next month our topic is going to be going out dining with food allergies, and we're going to have allergic girl Sloan Miller, who many of you may know. She runs Allergic Girl Resources and Allergic Girl blog on the internet. And then Dr. Mike Pistiner, who happens to be our medical advisory team chair, but he also has the website allergyhome.org, and he's very much an advocate for legislative advocacy about restaurants and restaurant safety for those with food allergies. So he's really got a lot to add to the conversation, and they're going to have a kind of a banter back and forth. It's not going to be in a traditional type of format like we did today. So, so anyhow, okay, first question. Let me see. We didn't get a lot of questions this time, so let me get started on here. Is there any special bakeware that I should use when I bake? Dr. Meg, do you want to try answering that one?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of bakeware, for better or for worse. If they ever come out with a new shape, I always want to get it. It's kind of pathetic. I have probably 2 huge Tupperware bins full of bakeware. So, for basic cakes, I go on Amazon and I look up, a round cake pan, and I get them there. For kind of fun-shaped ones, I usually will go to Joann's or to Michael's, and if they've got a half-off coupon or whatever they send in the mail to you, that's awesome. You can get them for half off and just start collecting them. And, you know, if you only use it once, that's all right, you know. Maybe you'll have another friend you'll make one for. But as far as, you know, I just have some basic shapes that have gotten me through the beginning stages of cooking, just some round shapes and some square shapes. And, you know, if you go on the web and look up different cake recipes, a lot of them do shaping of cakes. So I made a Cars cake for my son, which, you know, you basically made a bunch of cake and piled it together and got after it with a knife and started cutting into a shape of a car. So sometimes the shape of your pan doesn't matter at all compared to what you're going to end out with on your cake.
Okay, great. Let me see. Do you have any suggestions on just creative tips for, oh, here I got one on tips for making fondant icing. Very excited to try that. It sounds like, do you have a recipe for that on Speed Bump Kitchen?
Yeah, if you Google marshmallow fondant recipe, you'll find a recipe. It's also on Speed Bump if you just search under fondant on my blog. But yeah, it's actually really fun to make. You basically melt a bunch of marshmallows in the microwave, and you dump it out onto a countertop that's covered with powdered sugar, and you just start kneading the powdered sugar into the melted marshmallows with some shortening, and it's kind of like making edible Play-Doh. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, great. Let me see. Someone's asking about the availability
Linda,
of natural.
can I add something?
Oh, sure.
I was just wanting to suggest also for our families who can't eat marshmallows, because there might be a few out there, that icing is actually the easiest in terms of ingredients because it just takes sugar and water in general. So if you are concerned about frosting or fondant, you can still make a nice topping out of icing.
Okay, great. Yeah, we get recurrent questions about, you know, not using artificial dyes and, you know, things like that. There are natural food colorings available, and companies actually make them and bottle them just like the artificial stuff. And if you just Google natural food colorings, you'll start to see, you know, examples of ones that are available, and you can just buy them in the store or order them online. Okay, we had a couple questions about pizza, and, you know, do you have any questions, any suggestions on how to make pizzas without, say, tomato sauce or, you know, a nut-free pesto kind of thing?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah,
we make pizza a lot in our house. I need to post a recipe for it, but there are a lot of good dairy-free cheese options out there now that are, if you look around, you can find them. Making the crust is probably the most challenging thing, but that's usually just some sort of flour, water, and yeast and some salt. But give it a try. In worst case scenario, you've got a flat-looking pizza. But in our house, we'll do pizza with no tomato sauce. We'll just have some olive oil on it. My kids love bacon, so there's oftentimes just a plain bacon pizza. So there's a lot of options out there, and when you're making it at home, you can put whatever you want on it. I have one kid of mine who just loves olives, so he'll just have it's just olives on there. So just Google some recipes for it. In our house, actually, when I make pizza, I will make a bunch of it. I'll pre-make a bunch of them and kind of freeze it uncooked on a paper plate. And then if my husband and I are ever ordering pizza and I don't have anything for the kids that are allergic, I just take one out of the freezer and throw it in the oven at 400, and it's ready really quick, just like our frozen pizza. So some of these things you can make in advance.
Okay, I guess it's to your advantage that now thin crust pizzas are kind of vogue. Someone asked what the best substitute is for butter in baking cookies. I'm sure it depends upon what allergens you're managing, but if you want suggestions like that, just log into our food and cooking support forums and just post questions, and you'll get lots of suggestions on those. That's a very common question that we get asked. And someone talked about India tree natural food colorings, but some of them are not natural, so you have to make sure you read the ingredients and check the labels and all that kind of stuff, just like anything else you would purchase. Regarding food colorings, you can also use fruits and vegetables. Blueberries can color things purple and things like that. And so you can also find even suggestions on how to use those things fruits and vegetables, that is, to use as alternative food colorings in foods, or even to color eggs. Let me see if I can find another question here. My baby turns 1 next month and she's got multiple food allergies. What can I do for a cake for her, because we're doing more allergy testing and I still don't know all her allergies? You know, that might be an alternative to make just something really simple. But Meg or Yael, do you have any suggestions?
I think a great option is, especially with 1-year-olds, they're not going to remember what the cake is. They don't really care that it's cake. It's we care that it's cake. So if you know that they are having something that's safe for them, I would focus on the things that they do have that's safe. So for example, if you know fruits are safe for them, you can actually make a fruit cake. I've seen a lot of examples of that on our forums. And what you can do is just make a tower of fruit, or almost like an incredible edible kind of bouquet of fruit, and then add a candle. Because the reality is, they're just excited that they're the focus of attention. They're not going to actually remember that it's a cake or not. And so making something special that can be given to them during the happy birthday song is what's more important than if it's made out of batter, is what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk about making snow cones? Do you add flavor to them, or you just use plain ice and just make it just plain ice?
So I think you have a variety of options. For Yoey, he's actually no foods now, so we would just do shaved ice. But if you have a child who can have fruits, fruit is a great way to flavor snow cones without anything artificial, which are some concerns. So if you want to, you can even make like an apple juice snow cone, or you can make an orange juice snow cone. So there's a lot of different varieties that you can do, or you could go and buy the syrup. So you have a few options at your disposal.
Okay. Somebody from South Africa is on our call today and was asking if food coloring would be okay for a 1-year-old on a limited diet. If they're food derived, I think you'd have to be careful to make sure that whatever they're made of is safe for your child. Dr. Meg, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to look at the ingredients on it, obviously. You know, and I did, you know, you can make your own food colorings. I think for a while I was making some red dye because I wanted to color the soy milk I was giving to one of my children so I didn't make a mistake. So I, you know, cooked down some beets and I made my own red food dye for a while. So there are ways that you can do that where you know 100% it's going to be safe because you made it in your own house.
Okay, great. And someone suggested that there's ways to just whip frozen bananas and turn that into, that's all it is bananas, and it becomes like an ice cream-like texture, if that's safe for your child. I'm trying to think if there's any other, what types of syrups to purchase. I'm not exactly sure what that question means. If you use fruits and veggies to color something, does it change the flavor at all?
Well, if you could.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
So you don't want to use broccoli for green, huh?
I would recommend it.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's 3 o'clock. It's the top of the hour, so I think I'm just going to say thank you all for attending, and we're going to wrap things up now. We just want to remind you that Kids with Food Allergies Foundation relies on donations from supporters like you to continue our educational programming for families. And so if you really get a lot out of this, make sure that you keep us in your giving plans through the year. We'd really appreciate your support. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for attending. We are going to put up a survey at the end so you can let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions or comments, we'd appreciate them as well. And we will be recording this, as we told you, and we'll be sending you an email with a link to the recorded version and then some other links that we might find of help to you regarding this topic to supplement the information that we've talked here today. Thank you, Yael. Thank you, Dr. Meg. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you to Melanie Carver, who's behind the scenes working the technical aspects of this program. And with that, I'm going to say have a good afternoon. Bye.